All right, folks, so here's a little update here on this 305 here. If you haven't seen it already, we're going to do a 454 swap in this thing here this spring and part of the summertime here. But until then, this 305's got to be, staying in service still. So we're still going to be using this truck, of course. So we went ahead and got the valve springs ordered, just, regular old stock valve springs. And because I wanted to do all that before I put the heads back on this motor. And, just freshen everything up. Later on, when we pull this motor out, put in our Biscayne there, we'll replace the cam and set of lifters too. They actually look fine. It's no flat lobes or nothing like that on it, but I'm gonna freshen this motor up, at least the top end and the valve train and everything. That way it'll last a little while. Kind of enjoy it. But that's a little update here. So I got them ordered, and I just bought old Engine Tech ones. They should be all right. And I went ahead and measured them and everything. Make sure when you order valve springs, you want to measure the diameter, the outside diameter of them. And you can measure the installed height, and you can also measure the free height. Measure them two things, and then that way you know what you got. And now, of course, if they're old, if they're worn out, the installed, or not the installed, but the free height's going to be a little bit different. But just measure all that out. I did, and I got all that ordered. Mine were about 1.25 inches in diameter, and so I ordered them, and then I measured the free height too without them being installed. So I got that done. But anyway, I figured I'd make a little update. I was almost that close from not buying them, but they're not that expensive. So for a couple dollars. They were really kind of inexpensive. I went ahead and ordered them because I don't want to pull the heads off again, and I don't want to have to disturb the heads and take them all apart again because, I got the valve stem seals on the way and all that, and we're just quote unquote freshening them up. I don't want to have to pull this motor back apart again. Now I am going to put a new cam and new set of lifters in it, when I put it over in the Biscayne, but I don't want to have to pull the heads and pull the heads apart and all that stuff again. I don't mind dropping the pan and taking the balancer and time cover and all that stuff off and put a cam in it. But not that there's nothing wrong with this cam, but it is a flat tappet, and kind of surprised it's not flat, to be honest, because I ain't been running zinc in here at all, but so far, it ain't. I've done checked it. I pull all the lifters and everything out. It's no flat lobes or nothing on it, but either way, I'm going to just buy a stock cam and set of lifters and throw in it because I want it to be freshened up and ready for our Biscayne when I go to throw it over in that car, because we're going to do our 454 swap. But anyway, that's where we're at with this. I got them on the way, and then let me show you what all I got done to the heads. Might not look like it now, but hopefully this spring and this coming summer here, this thing will be moving on its own power. You're saying, so that 305 is going to go in this car out of my C10. I don't think I'm going to put the roller in it. And I think it'd just be easier to just take that other 305 and put it in here, because I don't want to be switching the flywheel and all that stuff, because the 305 that I have is a one-piece rear main, and they are different flywheels. And I already got the clutch kit and all that for a two-piece rear main. So hopefully this thing will be moving on its own power here soon. And anyway, a little update too. It's a side note on this door and the radiator support. I got to take in, I got the guy to finally ship it through UPS and all that, so I got to finish paying what's left on that, and then I'll get that shipped out here soon. So hopefully the clown situation with that is done and over with now, but I got to send him the other half the money and all that, and I'll get the door and hopefully radiator support here in another couple weeks. But so hopefully we'll have all that stuff for spring, and we'll get this front clip off and all that and clean it up and get this thing kind of ready to where we can throw a motor and throw the 3-speed back in it and get it to at least where we can move it around my property here. I'd be happy with just that. I still got that piece of sheet metal, so we might make some roadkill style floor pans temporarily, so we can at least have a floor in it again. We'll just probably take in, eventually I'm gonna order a one-piece floor for it, but I just, I don't have that kind of money right now. We got too many projects going on, but I'm gonna take that piece of sheet metal I got. I think it might be almost enough. I might have to get another sheet, but it'll be enough to fix the front anyway. And we'll cut all that rod out there, and we'll just take and measure it, and we'll cut a piece of that sheet metal, and we'll kind of overlap it a little bit, and then we'll throw that in there, so at least have a floor in it for now, and anyway, can at least move his car around. But anyway, let me show you the heads here. Alright folks, so I've been cleaning and cleaning on these heads here, and finally got the combustion chambers cleaned up really good. And I got all the carbon and everything cleaned out of them. I got to finish lapping the valves and all that good stuff. But I'll tell you what, you talk about a job. But I went ahead and checked all the valve guides on their heads and everything. And I got a couple. It's not, you know, it's a little on the loose side, but I don't think it's nothing too horrible. And, you know, for what I'm doing, this, you know, we're trying to freshen this motor up so we can keep our truck going. And then that way, when we go to pull it out, we can take it, you know, straight over to our Biscayne there, and it'll be a, you know, quote-unquote fresh motor, at least the top end anyway. And that, you know, it'll last a little while. I don't care what motor's in it. I don't really care right now. I just want to make it move around. But anyway, I went ahead and been checking these valves here. I mean, I'm not no machinist or nothing, and by all means at all. But, you know, I've been checking all these valves and everything, and then, you know, checking the guides, make sure they're not too loose or anything. We got just a couple loose ones, but it's not nothing horrible. But most of them are pretty tight. You know, want to look at the exhaust seats. These heads have the factory hardened seats from the factory. That's a nice thing about these 305s, like I mentioned that before. Now, I might be wrong on that, but from what I've read, all 305s have hardened seats. Now, I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. But either way, you want to look at your seats, even your intakes. You want to look at them real good. And look at your exhaust seats really good. You know, make sure they're not cracked or nothing like that. And let's see, we'll get this thing to focus a little bit. Just make sure you got all three angles on there, because they are a, you know, 3-angle valve job. You got one angle there. Then you got one angle right there. Then you got another angle up there. I believe it's a 60 degree, a 45, and then I want to say, do not quote me on that, maybe a 15 degree or something like that. But I know it's a 45 and a 60. But don't quote me. But it's a 45 in there either way. But just either way, just look at your seats there. Make sure they're not beat out or nothing like that, even if they are hardened. But most time if they're hard, I mean, I don't think you got to worry about it. Went ahead and checked all our valves here, and got them moving freely. I mean, I can take my finger, you know, push them up. They fall right back in there. That's what you want. You don't want them sticking, nothing like that. I got to finish up the intake side, but I mean, it's nice and smooth. I want to get in here and, you know, trying to check the play on them. I mean, this one's pretty good. You know, you want to check kind of accurately. You don't want to pull them too far out, you know. I'm checking where the valve's going to open. But this one's pretty good, even checking on the other side, you know. Pretty good. But all of them, you know, move freely and everything. So all they look good, you know. This one's pretty tight. I'm going to hit and put a little similar lube on it. So that'll work pretty good. Went ahead and I went and don't look like it, but let me get in the sun here. But I went ahead and I've been cleaning the heck out of these valves. The exhaust valves cleaned up really good, but the intake valves, I mean, I probably spent about 3 to 4 hours cleaning all them intake valves up, trying to clean all the carbon and everything off of them. And you know, trying to get everything cleaned up real good, because we're going to reuse it. We're trying to do this as, you know, cheap as we can. I don't want to put a whole lot on it, but at the same time, I want to replace what's, you know, truly necessary. And of course, we got number 8 there. Hopefully, you can read it. Wrote 8 with the Sharpie. And you know, you want to look at your valves too. Look at all 3 angles on your valves. This one, it's hard to see, but make sure, you know, they look all right. We're going to relap them in. I mean, I don't see nothing really obviously wrong with this head at all. But look at that. Look how beautiful that thing goes in there. No, it ain't sticking, nothing like that. And you drop that thing right on in there. Look at that. It's what you want. So anyway, I got all that freed up. Got the valve springs on the way. I went ahead and measured them off. So we're going to replace all that good stuff. And I could have bought a kit, but I decided not to. But yeah, I measured all my valve springs, the outside diameter, and the free height. That's the free height from the bottom to the top here. And mine were about 1.25 inches in diameter. And then measured the height as well. They're about 2 inches in diameter, I believe. But I ordered all new ones. They do get weak over time, so they're not that expensive to get. And just went on, guy. Another thing too, I got to clean up and do yet is these exhaust rotators. We're going to reuse all this stuff. You want to make sure all these rotate. You know, rotate them both ways. Make sure all that's freed up. Now, like I said, I'm not no machinist at all. You know, I'm just trying to clean all this stuff up real good and just make it where it's more reliable. I mean, if you got the head apart, it ain't gonna hurt one bit to sit there and spend a little time cleaning all the valves up. I mean, it's not gonna hurt nothing. You can take a micrometer and measure the stem, make sure they're in spec. I mean, mine are pretty close in the spec. But, I mean, in reality, I mean, this thing probably does need maybe 1 or 2 guides, but it's not so horrible, you know. When I'm checking it, it ain't so horrible, you know. You can't obviously tell it because you don't want it to have much of slop in the guide and all that because that's going to screw the seat up and everything else. But, now I went ahead and been cleaning these valves here, the intake valves, and that was a job. But I got them all cleaned up. They're not 100% perfect, but yeah, I think they're pretty good. That's just assembly lube that's on it there. But I still got a little bit of carbon on the edge there. I got to clean that up a little bit. That'll come off once I relap them. But, I mean, you should have seen them before. They were caked on up. They were caked up almost to where the bottom of my fingernail was. They were caked. And I spent a bunch of time cleaning these things up. And, I mean, they're still not perfect on the bottom there, but yeah, I mean, that'll help this thing flow a whole lot better, that's for sure. But I had them all apart. And I just spent a little time on cleaning stuff up. I'm just a shade tree guy. I'm not no machinist by all means. But, you know, just little stuff like that will help. That'll make it last longer. And I think I mentioned it before. Measure your guides and make sure you get the correct valve stem seals. These are the better ones, because these are what they call the positive seals. They're not like a Ford. On my 302, the one I did, pulled the heads off, did head gaskets on a couple summers ago. I got a video on that. But where the head gasket was blowed outside and it was blowing out compression on the side of the head. Every time I was running, it would go. Well, anyway, make sure and check your valve stems. Those on the Ford actually ride with the guide. So once they're on the valve, this is an example real here. So once you install them, just imagine this is in the head here. And, you know, it's completely got the valve spring, all that good stuff. But you install your valve stem, your umbrella seal. As your valve is opening and closing, they ride with the valve just like that. They ride with the valve. But on this particular setup, the valve stem seal stays in the guide, and only the valve obviously moves. The umbrella seal does not move with it. I hope that makes a little sense. But like I said, I ain't perfect, but this is the valve I reordered. I only ordered one valve because it's a little chipped at the top there. If you can see, I'm getting light here. But that was the only one. I'm not sure why it did that, but the rocker arm looks perfectly fine. It's weird, but you know, I don't know why it would have chipped like that. But I ordered just this one exhaust valve. Make sure you measure. Make sure they're standard, because you can get oversized valve stem seals. So watch out for that. But hopefully that makes a little sense. So that's a little, you know, update here. And like I said, you know, I'm not no machinist or nothing at all, but, you know, it's just common sense stuff. Just check, if you want to get in detail about it, make sure you got all 3 angles on your valve seats, your intake and exhaust. So there's one angle there. Then we got another angle up there, and then we got our last angle up here. And I kind of believe, I like to watch my vintage iron a lot, and I'm actually more for if you want to really get into it, and people can argue with this, I'm more for a true 3-angle valve job. What I call that is using stones and doing it by hand. You know, kind of doing it that way versus, you know, putting it on a, take it to a machine shop. Well, same, either way you're going to take it to a machine shop. But putting it on a machine and putting it on a valve job, cutter and cutting all three at the same time. I'd rather have the stones because to me, that makes for a more true valve job, in my opinion. But anyway, I'm more for the stone, kind of cutting the 3 angles and all that. They do make a 4-angle valve job, is what I've heard. But anyway, I am not no machinist, you know, or nothing, but I know a few things, but I don't know everything. But just little stuff like that, you know, take your time, clean all the valves up, make sure you get the correct valve stem seals. And, you know, little stuff like that. I replaced that one valve. I really hate buying a brand new valve and, you know, putting it on a old seat because this valve has made it to that seat. But I'm going to lap it in. I'll make sure it looks good and all that. And I think it'll be all right. But I really don't like replacing just one valve like it. Because like I said, it's kind of like a flat tap that came. The lifters and the camshaft lobes are, you know, they're made it together. And it's kind of the same concept. I really don't want to put a new valve on an old seat. But we'll lap it in. I think it'll be all right. As long as it's not, you know, here's an example here is, look how this valve seat is right here. It's real narrow right in here. Then we come on this other side and see how more wider that is. So you just want to make sure that's the same thing on that valve stem seal, you know, on your angles there. So you don't want it real, you know, nice and clean on this side, and on the other side it's not even hitting when you lap it in. But just little stuff like that. Hopefully that makes sense. But so I ordered new valve springs for this, kind of getting a little lengthy on our video here. And we're going, that way the heads will be as freshened up as I can get it for a shade tree kind of freshen up rebuild. Call it top end rebuild. And the only point, if you ask yourself, well, why am I doing all this work? The real reason why I'm doing all this work is the whole issue with the whole thing is the head is not cracked. I've done looked this thing over like with a fine tooth comb. And I mean, the best way to take it to a machine shop and get them Magnaflux it and all that, but I don't have that kind of money. I don't. It's a 3 or 5. I ain't gonna put all that money in. It ain't worth it. But you know, what was happening is coolant was getting in the hole, and I don't think it might have been the head gasket, but I think the actual issue was the head bolts weren't torqued down correctly because this motor's been apart before, and so hopefully that'll fix it. I don't think they were torqued down right. But anyway, so that's where we're at here. I'll make some more videos on that. We're going to get this thing freshened up and get our truck back on the road until we're ready to put our 454 in it. Because it, like I said, it's going to be probably spring or sometime before we actually do the swap. And it's going to take quite a bit of time to do that. So anyway, that's where we're at. Hope you enjoyed the video series. We'll make some more on the 305 his here. Y'all take care. Bye.